It was a cold December morning in a quiet American suburb. The sky was gray, and a thin layer of snow covered the sidewalks. People walked quickly, collars up, coffee cups steaming in their hands. A luxury black SUV pulled over near a local park. The man who stepped out wore a tailored coat, expensive shoes, and a face that had forgotten how to smile. He was the CEO of a massive tech firm known for his sharp decisions and colder heart. To others, he was just a powerful man. To some, he was the reason their lives had changed forever. One of those people was Lisa Harper, a single mother who had given 8 loyal years to that same company. She had worked late nights, skipped vacations, and sacrificed family moments just to keep the department running. But when the company hit financial trouble, she was laid off without a second thought. No farewell, no appreciation, just a cold email and a locked account. Since then, Lisa had struggled to make ends meet. Bills piled up, her car broke down. But through it all, she smiled in front of her daughter, pretending everything would be fine. Lisa's daughter, Emily, was only 8, but her heart was far bigger than her years. She saw the sadness in her mother's eyes, the nights she stayed up crying silently, thinking Emily was asleep. Emily couldn't fix the job loss or pay the rent, but she had one idea: sell her puppy. The little golden retriever had been a birthday gift months ago. Emily loved him deeply, but she loved her mom even more. So she made a sign with crayons, "Puppy for sale, please help my mom," and stood near the park quietly. That same morning, the CEO walked by that park. He wasn't paying much attention, just stretching his legs before another round of meetings. But something made him slow down. A soft voice, almost like a whisper in the wind, said, "Please buy our puppy, sir. My mommy cries every night." He turned around and saw her, a little girl, wrapped in a pink coat too thin for the weather, holding a small shivering puppy, and looking up at him with eyes full of innocence. His footsteps froze. Something about her looked familiar. He walked closer, curious, unsure. "Why are you selling the puppy?" he asked. Emily didn't hesitate. "My mommy lost her job. I want to help her. I don't want her to cry anymore." Her words hit like a punch to the gut. The CEO felt something inside him shift, something he hadn't felt in years. He looked at the girl again, her face, her eyes, even her last name stitched on her backpack. "What's your mommy's name?" he asked. "Lisa Harper," Emily replied softly, with a quiet kind of pride. And in that moment, the CEO's heart sank. He knew that name. Lisa had worked under him for years. Loyal, honest, smart. He had seen her name when he signed the termination list. He hadn't even read her record, just followed numbers and graphs. Now here he was, standing in front of her daughter, who was offering her beloved puppy to save her mother. The CEO stared at the sign, then at the puppy, then at the little girl. The puppy let out a small bark, almost like it was calling him out. The girl smiled faintly, still hoping. "He's really nice, sir." He couldn't speak. For the first time in years, he didn't have a speech, a plan, or a reply. He just nodded and pulled out his wallet. But instead of paying for the puppy, he handed Emily his business card. "Keep the puppy. I'll come by tomorrow." "I'd like to meet your mom," he said quietly. Emily looked confused but nodded politely. She didn't understand, but something in the man's voice felt kind. As he walked away, the CEO felt an ache he hadn't felt in decades, a deep burning regret he couldn't shake off. That night, he couldn't sleep. The little girl's face kept flashing before him. He opened his laptop and pulled up old employee records. Lisa Harper's file popped up, glowing reviews, no complaints, years of service. She was even listed as one of the most dependable team members. He closed the laptop and sat silently in the dark. The company hadn't just lost a worker, it had failed a mother and perhaps stolen something from a child. He stared out the window, heart heavy, wondering how many others he had let down in the name of business. He knew what he had to do, not for the company, not even for redemption, but because it was right. The next morning, he dressed simply and drove back to the same area. Emily wasn't at the park this time. He asked a few locals and finally found the address, a small, aging apartment on the edge of town. He hesitated at the door, holding the same puppy in his arms. When Lisa opened the door and saw her former boss standing there, her face turned pale with shock. She didn't know whether to slam the door or collapse. The CEO smiled faintly and extended the puppy toward her. He insisted on coming back, he joked softly. Lisa didn't smile. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice tight. He took a deep breath. "I made a mistake, Lisa. You didn't deserve to be laid off. I didn't even read your record. But your daughter, she reminded me of the kind of people I should be fighting for, not firing." Lisa looked down at Emily, who stood beside her, hugging the puppy. Emily looked up at her mom and whispered, "He didn't take the money, Mommy." The CEO stepped forward slightly. "If you're willing, I want to offer you your job back." With a raise and more flexibility, Lisa was speechless. The world just for a moment felt different, softer, kinder. She nodded slowly and tears filled her eyes. Emily smiled wide and ran to hug him. The puppy licked his hand. And for the first time in a long while, the CEO felt like he had made a decision that mattered not to a boardroom, but to a family. Lisa accepted the job offer with trembling hands. It wasn't just about employment, it was about hope. Her daughter's small act of love had turned into a life-changing moment. The next morning, she dropped Emily at school and headed to her old office, now her new beginning. As she walked in, familiar faces turned to look, some surprised, others smiling warmly. The CEO greeted her personally, and even the HR manager came forward to apologize. Lisa felt like she was waking from a long nightmare, stepping back into light. Back at home, things slowly started to change. The bills were paid. Groceries filled the fridge again. Emily laughed more. The apartment, though still modest, felt warmer and more alive. Lisa bought Emily a new coat, and the puppy, who they named Lucky, became a symbol of their second chance. Every time he barked or chased his tail, Emily would giggle and say, "See, Mommy? He really is lucky." And Lisa would smile, silently thanking fate for guiding her daughter to that park bench on that cold morning. The CEO, meanwhile, couldn't forget the little family. He had started visiting them more often, dropping by with groceries, offering rides when needed, and even attending Emily's school performance. What began as guilt transformed into genuine care. He found himself laughing more around them, letting his guard down, sharing stories he hadn't told anyone in years. Lisa was hesitant at first, but his consistency softened her. Slowly, a strange but beautiful bond formed between the three, something between friendship, healing, and something neither could name yet. One evening, as they sat together at a small diner, Emily asked innocently, "Are you my uncle now?" The CEO chuckled awkwardly, but Lisa blushed. There was a long pause. Then he said, "Not yet. But maybe someday ... if your mom lets me." Lisa gave him a quiet, meaningful glance. She had been alone for so long, carrying burdens no one could see. And now, here was this man, once the reason for her downfall, now helping her rebuild. Life was strange, painful, and sometimes unexpectedly kind, but the world doesn't always let happy moments stay untouched. One morning, Lisa received a call. The CEO had collapsed in his office, heart complications. He was rushed to the hospital and put under strict observation. Lisa rushed to the hospital with Emily. Doctors assured them he was stable but needed rest and emotional care. Lisa sat by his bedside, holding his hand, tears silently falling. Emily placed Lucky next to him, hoping the puppy's presence would help. "You can't leave us now," she whispered. Days passed. He slowly regained strength, and Lisa never left his side. She cooked his meals, read to him, and reminded him of Emily's jokes. Their bond deepened not out of sympathy, but love. One day, as he held Lisa's hand, he said, "I used to think success meant power, money, and control, but real success is sitting here, holding the hand of the woman I once wronged, and being forgiven." Lisa didn't say a word. She just leaned forward and hugged him. It was a quiet moment, but it healed years of emotional scars. After his recovery, he returned to work, but with a new vision. He restructured policies, added support programs for single parents, and formed an employee care team led by Lisa. Her journey became an example of resilience, and soon, people across the company started opening up about their own struggles. A culture of empathy replaced the cold walls of corporate distance. Emily even visited on Bring Your Child to Work Day, proudly wearing her mom's badge and introducing herself as the girl who changed the CEO's heart. 1 year later, they were no longer just friends. In a quiet park, the same one where it all began, he got down on one knee, nervous, hopeful, and asked Lisa to marry him. Emily jumped with joy before Lisa could even answer. "Say yes, Mommy," she shouted. Lisa looked at him, her eyes full of memories and second chances, and nodded with a teary smile. "Yes," she whispered. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was real, messy, and beautiful. And they had earned it. Their wedding was small but heartfelt. Emily walked down the aisle with Lucky in her arms, beaming with pride. Friends, colleagues, and even former critics stood to applaud their journey. The CEO, now just David to those close to him, delivered a short speech. She sold a puppy to save her mother. I gave up an empire to gain a family. I think we both made the better deal. Laughter and applause followed. And Lisa? She simply held his hand tighter, knowing they had rewritten the ending to a story that once seemed hopeless. They bought a house near Emily's school with a backyard where Lucky could run free. Life wasn't perfect, but it was full of warmth. David would come home early just to cook with Emily. Lisa would watch them and smile, and Lucky would nap on the rug, living up to his name. On weekends, they visited shelters to donate supplies, telling their story to inspire others. Emily even started a small blog, "The Puppy Who Saved Our Family." Her words touched thousands, and the story slowly went viral. The local news eventually picked it up. "From layoff to love, a second chance family," the headline read. People from around the country wrote letters, sent emails, and shared similar stories of loss and redemption. Lisa started a support group for laid-off single mothers. David offered free Resume workshops and mentorship programs. The company became a model of compassion-led leadership. And through it all, they kept one framed photo in their living room, a picture of Emily in her pink coat, holding Lucky and that crayon sign. Sometimes, life takes everything from you before giving you something better. Lisa lost a job but found a future. David lost his pride but found purpose. And Emily? She never really lost anything, she just shared her heart. And in doing so, she brought together two broken pieces of life and made them whole again. One whisper in the park had rewritten their destiny. And that, perhaps, is what real miracles look like.